All right. Well, hey, thanks for, it's one of those interesting things where I can't see faces. I don't see chat or anything in this mode. So there might be one of you. I might be speaking to literally dozens of people. Who knows? But happy to be here and to participate. I have a lot of content to get through. 20 tips in 50 minutes is 55 minutes. Is just a lot to go through. I'll answer one important question right up front. Yes, the slides will be made available. In fact, I'm going to upload to SlideShare directly following this session. And a lot of this content has been prepared in a way with links, and there's some blog posts that are behind some of them. So you'll be able to get to all the tips and be able to put them into practice immediately. So again, my name is Christian Buckley. You can find me at Buckley Planet. And then there's a bunch of slides which if you've been participating today, you've probably seen a few times over. If I can get things to go forward, there we go. The renaming of the SharePoint conference over to the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference, of course. I should point out that off of the first slide there, thank you specifically to all the sponsors, but to QuizCom for sponsoring this session. All right, I'll move this forward. There's the rest of the sponsors out there. Let me introduce myself. If you're not familiar with me, I've been in the space for a few years. I'm almost a 9-time MVP, but I'm run a company called Collab Talk. It's a marketing, technical marketing and research organization based in Lehi, Utah. I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP and a Microsoft Regional Director. I'm also on the board for the Microsoft User Group, so formerly known as the Utah SharePoint User Group, and was on the Puget Sound SPUG for many years. I helped launch and run more than a dozen SharePoint Saturday events across the Western U.S., including Caruana Gatimu and I launched SharePoint Saturday Los Angeles 10 years ago. And which I know a lot of the SoCal stuff that is running this event all kind of came out of that, the larger, broader SPS movement. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have that, I'm told, that San Francisco Bay Area accent. I talk really fast, slur certain words together. Spent 12 years in Seattle, and last 4 years have been here in Lehi, Utah. And yes, I almost learned the banjo. All right, so let's just jump right in. I'm going to go through some of these very quickly. Some have screenshots and animations. In a slower session, I would, or more time, I guess, would be the appropriate way to refer to that. I would go through and demo a few things. A lot of these things, if you are aware, I do monthly webinars with Tom Duff, good friend. Most of these are mine. I've borrowed some of Tom's. This is kind of a best of some that we've presented over the last 3 years during these webinars. But you can find a lot of this stuff or all of those sessions if you go to buckleyplanet.com. At the top of my blog, it says productivity tips, and just about everything is included there. So here we're going to start. Number 1, leveraging the new Office app. If you don't yet have this on your mobile device, then you need to go and get it. It's pretty fantastic. I've replaced the need for some key apps. I know I kind of joke about the fact that I have my Microsoft app graveyard on my phone. There's quite a few more that are in there. These apps still work, but I just don't use them anymore because the new Office app has displaced them. So that was kind of a top question there. But there's a lot that the Office app can do if you've not yet gone out there and played with it. So definitely go take a look at that. So I'm going to walk through and talk about theirs. There's like a video that walks you through. But the primary features are, of course, adding notes, snapping photos and videos, and then adding to those, and then reviewing and editing documents and slides. Of course, it does a lot more than that. There's that next layer down, where you can transfer more easily your files from your phone to your PC. You can convert images to text and to table in Excel, and I'll show you some shots of that. And then you can also create and manipulate PDFs, including signing PDFs, which is just awesome. Got a smartphone, somebody sends you a PDF right there on your phone with your finger. You can sign a document, send it right back to them. Very cool. So you can search, of course, across all of your existing cloud locations, including SharePoint OneDrive, whatever you connect to your account, and other cloud services as well. And so it does a lot that the Office app can do. And of course, you can add those other cloud locations and replace the need for a lot of capability across even those other applications. What do I mean? Of course, Dropbox and Ignite and other apps that are within that. But what's cool is once you go in and see the content, of course, you get those rich visual cards. You can pin important documents. Make sure I'm forwarding at the right speed here. You can search for content across connected libraries. You can review and edit content. You can preview in the print view. You can view and edit, mark up that metadata, share files from your mobile device to other locations. And then you have the cool kind of converting tables and graphs. And so this is like I snapped a picture from a magazine, and you can see here it took this graph and it attempted to convert that into Excel. Which was an interesting result there. Probably the more interesting thing for a lot of people is converting the text within an image to a usable text. So you snap a picture, it processes that, and then you can see kind of the text that's converted there. So there's just you can transfer then, of course, images between your PC and your phone. And so you snap your pictures, you go into that transfer mode, it then pulls up this scanning tool on your PC. You go to transfer.office.com, the QR code, you confirm the connection between the two devices, and then start moving your images and documents across. It's pretty slick. Now, one big caveat pointed out by a good friend Hal Hostetler, another Microsoft MVP, it says that one difference is that there's still an issue that the Office mobile app eats up a lot of cache compared to the standalone apps that are out there. So hopefully they'll figure that out and fix that relatively quickly. All right, second tip. This is one you've probably seen, and you've probably seen a few on this list, but hopefully there will be some that you're just not familiar with or haven't played with yet, and you'll get some value out of it. But it's the AI-powered to-do tracking in Word. Really cool. I've got a couple things that are task and to-do related in this list, but this is something that is where you're really seeing some of the artificial intelligence capability that Microsoft has been developing come into practice. And it's really cool to be able to do this. So you're working on a shared document in Word Online. You want to go in and you need input from members of the team. So you can go in and @mention, and they'll get notifications with a link back to this document of where they need to provide their input. So this is kind of alongside adding a note and having kind of a running dialogue as you're co-editing on a document. So you can actually insert this directly into a document and @mention, and it will notify them and they know specifically where they need to go and what action to take. Really cool tracking. It shows up in their to-do, so it shows up as a task. And so there's some other feedback to Microsoft about expanding on this, the linkage between tasks like this, not just like an Outlook and to-do type task, but being able to show up within Planner and eventually into Project and other things. So I think we're going to see a richer integration between the Office applications and this kind of tracking and to-do and Planner very soon. All right, number 3. Leveraging Cortana Scheduler for meetings. So this is one I'm confident not many of you have gone and played with. Of course, you have the meeting capability within like the Find Time and other tools for Find Time and FreeBusy for scheduling, and you probably already have those activated, those features within Outlook. But this is something where you can actually go, it extends that. You go to calendar.help to sign up for this, and then you have this capability to be able to go in and leverage Cortana. And so it's the intelligent agent, and Cortana is being rebranded as being, a competitor to the other smart assistants, whose names I won't say out loud because they're both sitting here listening to me right now. But you have the ability to do the audible controls, or just as part of your regular meeting in email and Outlook, go into scheduling a meeting. You can just forward a message to Cortana at calendar.help and put in that natural language like, hey, Cortana, can you schedule 30 minutes with Ryan sometime this week? And if Ryan's in my organization, it'll understand both of our schedules, find the right date, automatically schedule that, and send that invite to Ryan. So it's really cool what you can go and do to block out time. And again, I don't have Cortana turned on to listen in to all of my conversations. I've said her name many times here, and she's not taken action. Thank you for not listening, Cortana. But for me, I'm starting to utilize this just through Outlook and by typing these commands. Really cool tool that is kind of taken it to the next level for those meeting organizational tips. Right, number 4. This is one that if you missed it, Bill Bear in his new role, moving over from the SharePoint team over to search and AI. Can't remember the bloated name of the team that he's on. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But he presented this and provided a blog post on this outlining the capability. I've got the link on the next page here. But this is the ability to go in and customize the results of search. It's incredibly powerful. So if you want to, as part of your SharePoint environment, or even to link to it over from Teams, from a tab, and have kind of a custom experience, so that it's just the common search that people have, and build that in and build the experience, what they see, what information is presented there from your SharePoint environment. Really easy to go and build that within SharePoint. So just within the site collection settings and search settings, and it's just set up that custom query that the results define what that looks like, create that nice look and feel to it, and then share that out with your organization. It's one of those things which to be able to share out this custom view just improves that overall user experience inside of SharePoint or even within Teams. Number 5. So adding to OneNote meeting notes via mobile. And so you're probably aware, and this is one of those just kind of building on what you already know. So as you're probably all aware, so you can go with the integration with OneNote through Outlook. You can go, and as you're creating a new meeting, you can select the meeting notes, that OneNote. So select that, and then you have a couple options. You can share the notes with the meeting or take notes on your own, and it will go and automatically create in the relevant notebook. It'll create a new tab and start you off there. So when you get if you're, I guess, show you the next build there, you'll see the link there. Of course, if you're doing this as a Teams meeting or a Skype meeting or an in-person meeting, and everybody gets that as part of the invite, and so you can go back and access that. I live and breathe inside of OneNote, and so this was an incredible advance when Microsoft added this. Now, what I'm building off of, so once you have that created, and I then have on my mobile device, I have OneNote, and I have access to all of those same sites and tabs. So whether you're in that meeting in person or participating from afar, what's cool about that, and just you probably haven't thought of, is you can then go and use your mobile device as an extension of that collaboration activity. Do things like add video, add audio notes, take pictures from around the room. If you need to, take pictures of everybody that participated in that session. Whatever it is, I think where I kind of thought about this, discovered this, is Tom and I were talking about this, about capturing audio and video, and it actually embeds it within the notes, and having that right there. We were talking about, well, where are those actual files, and what do you do with this? And we kind of missed the whole kind of the mind-blowing experience of they were able to capture all of these other experiences and notes in addition to just taking and co-editing on these shared notes in OneDrive. So of course, on the desktop experience, there it is. So I captured those, took that picture, added a short audio note, added that into the notes there, and people can immediately go in, start manipulating both of those things. So think about it this way: somebody is out in the field at a site taking pictures while the meeting is going on back at headquarters. So I could be capturing live pictures. People could go in, mock those up, asking about it. Hey, I don't see this too well. Can you also take a picture of this and capture all of that for the record? Very cool capability. It's one of those things. It's not really a new feature so much as it is, hey, I didn't realize I could do this. So love that one. Number 6, adding an email as a task in Outlook and To Do. Again, this is one of those things where you're probably familiar with this, but you just didn't think about it. So we're probably all familiar with, somebody sends you an email, you want to create a task or time blocked down in your calendar, you drag and drop that email down to the calendar, it opens it up, you create that calendar, invite other people to it. Could just be that you're blocking out time in your schedule, but most people just don't realize that there's a tasks a capability within Outlook that you can drag that item down to that task icon. And what happens is a task dialog opens up. You get all the details there. You can then set the calendar dates. I think my build got broken there, but you can go in and modify start and due dates, the status, the priority, assign it to people, put an alert on that, reminders, put that in place. So it's just really nice to have that. Now, once that's created, all of those things within Outlook roll up to the that tasks view. There's a dashboard there, but with the integration with To Do, and if you're not yet using Microsoft To Do on your phone or your desktop, I'd highly recommend that you go and download those apps as well, because To Do, just like Planner, you're going to hear more about that this year as we get more and more integrations and more robust capabilities coming to Planner. To Do is that place where you get that personal view of tasks that are being assigned to you from across plans and projects and through Outlook as well. So any task that's assigned to you anywhere inevitably will end up being visible through both To Do and eventually Planner. All right, number 7. It's kind of a two-parter here. I kind of integrated 2 tips, but the first part of that is adding quick polls to Outlook emails. So this is a specific functionality. This isn't just going out to forms. This is a feature that you need to go and add to Outlook. So it's free. Go grab it. And what this does, it's not for the complex multi-question surveys. In Forms, Microsoft Forms, while they're adding more to it, and there's the pro features that are coming, that are in pilot right now. It's beyond just the voting buttons, which you may be familiar with, that have been around for a long time. But this is something that is relatively new. Forms itself is not new, but you have the ability to go in, create those simple surveys, quizzes, go build out that content. And then what's great about this is that you can send this out, attach it to an email and say, hey, looking for more feedback around this. And as people respond, you're able to then monitor the live results. It captures that and rolls that up. But you could send out a fairly large, if you're in a large organization, maybe you're doing an employee satisfaction survey, and just something that's kind of a quick and simple, just not a lot of questions to it, not a lot of complexity. You don't have, if people respond this way, then give them this question. It's just kind of a flat survey capturing that information. Then this is a perfect tool for that kind of capability. If you've not played with Microsoft Forms in general, one other thing that I would say that it's really cool, and I don't have other screens to show you an example here, but it's the fact that you can embed a Microsoft form in a video or in that you've uploaded to Stream, or slides that are made available through SharePoint OneDrive or even out on SlideShare, and you can add Microsoft Forms questions as a slide, as a section, that people have to interact with within a video. So it's great for training to ask quizzes, and you can you can have that live data that's captured to be able to monitor that and get notifications that people are responding. So really rich features, cool things that they're doing with Microsoft Forms. All right, the next one. Here's one that is one of the Tom Duff's tips that he shared. Of course, this is one I wanted to share as well, but Microsoft Stream, if you missed the announcement a couple weeks back, so they now allowed for screen capture videos. Sometimes all you want to do is, like, you've got screen captures, but you want to put together a video that people can sit and watch versus going through slides like I'm doing. They want to be able to, you want to go through, and you don't need an animation more than just the screen captures talk through what the person's saying. So within Stream, you can now do that. So you have up in the create, you have the record screen, and so you get to this, and as you capture that, hit record, you then add the narration. Now, some of you probably are aware that they discontinued this type of capability directly in PowerPoint. PowerPoint had this, and it was a bit, I'm kind of squirming here, sketchy in how it did it. And a lot of people, and this is just something to be aware of with this capture as well, you need to finish what you're saying about a slide or a capture before you move on to the next capture, because it won't capture any dialogue between those captures. That was a major problem with the PowerPoint capability. You don't really have this here because you're doing one screen capture at a time, and then it then combines them and creates a watchable video. Whereas when you were doing the PowerPoint recording, if you happen to talk too close to the end before you hit the next slide, you'd lose a lot of that audio. So this is just a cleaner solution. So then you have different screen captures that you can go and grab. Of course, it looks like a lot of the other sharing that you see from your entire screen, a specific application, or a Microsoft Edge tab. You then hit next, capture that. It lets you preview. You can redo the audio if you mess up. It's just a nice little tool. I was mentioning to Tom as he was sharing this out that years ago I had a tool that I used to use. I would primarily build demos through the screen captures and narration, so that because the downside of just capturing a video of a live demo is that you often go too fast or too slow. You're waiting, or you're having to go back and pause and unpause on that video so that you can get the information you need through, kind of like narrating these slides. And so it's nice to be able to do that. And of course, once you create that video, put that together, name it, describe it, other data, upload it directly into Stream and make it available to your organization, or download that and use it, leverage it on YouTube or Vimeo or some other source. So it's a great little tool, new feature that's out there. I'm excited that it's available, and I don't have to go out to some third-party solution, free or paid, that I can now do all of this with Stream. Right, number 9. I love this one. Creating tabs in Teams chats. So we're all aware, those that are using Teams, you're aware that you have at the top of the navigation of the experience that there's the little plus mark. You can see it there up at the top nav to add a tab in a channel. But most people aren't aware that you can add a tab to a chat. So here in this example, this is Greg and I, this is a one-on-one chat, and we have this as an ongoing on a regular basis. We're complaining about the user group, the people that we work with, whatever it is. But as Greg and I have this persistent chat, we go back to that we can, if we have resources that we need for this one-on-one, we can go and add specific tabs, and they're only visible to Greg and I. So that's the downside to tabs that you add in a channel, is anyone with access to that channel. And if it's a public channel, then anybody within the team can see those tabs. Of course, there are caveats to that. And a great example is that you might have a legacy SharePoint library or list that has very restricted permissions. You can always add that as a tab, and only people with that subset of permissions can get access to that tab. And it would, if somebody that doesn't have permissions would click over onto that SharePoint document library tab, and they don't have permissions, then it would ask them to request, and so there'd be that process that's in place. But again, within a channel, everything's open. I add a tab, everybody can see that. But within our one-on-one chat, or maybe it's 5 of us, where it's more dynamic, it's not as, we don't need to go and create a new channel. There's just 5 of us that are having a conversation about something that's not yet ready for prime time. And we just want to make sure that all the resources that we need in our small, short collaboration, we've got those tools, add tabs within that chat. So what that looks like, again, within that one-on-one chat with Greg, I just go and hit on that plus mark up at the top. It opens up that familiar experience with all the tab options. In this case, I'm just going to add a website. Let's say we're talking about a blog post. I add that in there, name the tab, it adds it in, and now it's available for us to go in there and have a conversation around. It's just a great little addition that has that controlled permissions. It's just for those little ad hoc collaborations. Love this capability. Number 10, here's kind of a 3-parter. And I was jokingly referring to this as become master of your desktop domain here. There's 3 things I want to talk about. So 2 that are mentioned here. The first one is the use of Alt-Tab, and then the second in the Windows key and the arrows on your keyboard. And so what this is this is like I have 2 monitors. I have 2 extra wide monitors. I'm planning on adding a 3rd one here because you can never have too many monitors, too much Windows space here. But what's nice about this is that if you're not familiar with these commands, Alt-Tab is a way of toggling between the various applications that you have open on your desktop. Most of us are familiar with that. So I have it's like, for me, it's like driving a manual vehicle. I don't even think about the stick shift, and Alt-Tab is the same way. If I've got 20 tabs open, if I have a number of different applications that are open across my 2 monitors, Alt-Tab between them until what I need pops up on front and continue working. So that's a powerful tool. The second one, of course, that fewer people are familiar with is utilizing your desktop space. And this is using the Windows key on your keyboard and then an arrow key. And so here in just this example, I've got a number of applications that are opening. I want to be able to go and edit inside of OneNote, but I want to have the relevant presentation or website or whatever it is on the left side of my screen. And you can actually do this, click over into, if you've got multiple screens, you can do this with, just click over to the applications, the windows that are open on the screen that you're trying to size for, and this will work. And so so here I'm actively working in OneNote. I select the Windows key, hit the right arrow, and it automatically then snaps OneNote over to the right side of that screen, splits it right down the middle. I then can select from the open applications on my desktop. In this case, I want to select from Teams. And so I click on it, and it will then snap that in at that 50% mark. What's nice then is that you can then go and say, well, you know what? I don't need to have 50-50. I can actually I just need to view and do this. I'm monitoring this conversation that's actively happening inside of a channel in Teams. And so I can actually go in and grab it from that center bar and push it over there. And of course, my animation didn't work properly. Awesome. And but I can slide that across and give more screen space to that right side, to the OneDrive. Now, the other part of managing your desktop domain and your space that I absolutely love this feature, and sometimes I often forget about this, is in Windows 10 is the timeline feature. And so this is down at the footer of Windows 10. And if you don't recognize it, there's a little icon there, the timeline feature. You have to turn this on to be able to start using it, and it will start capturing once it's turned on in your Windows settings. This is a privacy setting to go and turn that on. Then it'll start capturing that history. So it has to have the history to capture to be able to do this activity. So I have it turned on. Love using this. So this is in my build messed up. All right, there we go. Into the activity history and turn on the feature. Too many builds here. Right to my slides. Anyway, so here's the scenario. So you come in the next day, your system rebooted. I know it never happens. It happens occasionally to me. I didn't shut it down. Something decided it wanted to restart my system. Open it up. There's nothing open on the desktop or the default opening applications. What was I working on? Hit the timeline window and voila. What you get is everything, the last documents that were open on your screen, currently open, and then as you scroll down, so you get the scroll bar on the right and scroll down, it'll show you everything that, the history that was open. Click on them, opens them back up on your desktop. So I absolutely love this. This is with like the sandbox capability. It's not one of my tips here today, but if you weren't aware, there is a sandbox that's part of Windows 10, part of the Pro Windows. I've got Home Edition, so I can't show it to you, but there's a sandbox capability. So who knew? Tip 11. So I love the productivity enhancements, the engagement tools that are being offered in Teams. This is something that I've talked about for the last decade. I was one of the few voices in the SharePoint world back in even the mid 2000s when I joined Microsoft in 2006. One of my recommendations, actually in a white paper I wrote in 2004, was how SharePoint needed to start thinking about social capabilities. And so adoption and engagement tools has been a passion of mine. I was using Yammer prior to the acquisition and providing feedback back to the SharePoint team. If you remember, there was a movement to add early days of SharePoint 2010, social features. There were a lot of plans that got scuttled after the acquisition of Yammer. But this is some of the capability that I absolutely love. So there's more and more apps that are coming out. Some that are native, some that are third party, but just a lot of options. And this is one of those that if your organization is struggling with getting people to go in and utilize Teams and just to participate and collaborate and are looking for options, something like this incentives apps. Like if you're in operations or sales-centric organization, where leaderboards are something that you're using, where you're trying to encourage people. If you're training organizations, these are all different ways that you can go and leverage these kinds of tools. And so what's great about this is as you add in these capabilities and roll them out to various teams, you can then track, you provide feedback on a regular basis, build dashboards around this stuff, build these real-time leaderboards. Make it easy so that if you want to make it so that only managers can go in there and add the capabilities, if you want peers to be able to give each other, these badges and recognition, just a lot of different options to go in and build these things out. So this is just it's a great solution that was shared a few weeks back. So you go and check out the blog post. The link is here. There's kind of a part 2 to this, and I'll show you a couple of the other engagement apps. I don't have it next, which, come to think of it, would have made sense to have them in order. So there's 2 other engagement related tips that I'm going to share with you a little bit later here. They're just not in order for some reason. All right, next one. Love this one. If you're like me, I've taken Power BI courses in one ear, out the other. I can do some very basic things. But when I think of going in and manipulating data, most of my experience is a long history with using Excel. And so I know a lot about Excel, but sometimes I want to be able to do more with that data. I absolutely love the fact that Microsoft extended Excel with ideas. If you're not familiar with ideas, this is again the AI-based features. PowerPoint has this capability. I hate spending time in PowerPoint to try and make things look pretty. And so I absolutely love ideas for PowerPoint, whereas I add in images and text, and it gives me 100 different ways that I can make prettier slides. This is something similar in Excel, leveraging the Power BI capability, and it's kind of a step into that world. So to start using this, so you've got your table of information, you just select your data set, you click on ideas in the top right ribbon, and it automatically goes and opens up that side panel with different visualizations of your data. Really powerful. This is a, incredibly simple table. Think about this with more complexity around that data, maybe hundreds or thousands of rows and all of these different columns and fields of data that you would get some very rich ideas out of that. Now you can also go in there and manipulate those out of the box, those canned ideas based on the fields that you want to include. So you can create something that is very specific. In this example, in my simple data set, focus on the the color of the line item. And so what's cool about this is once I've said, okay, you know what, I think that's the right data set that I want to be able to report on. That's the right kind of the focus area of that. I then select the insert pivot chart, and what it does is it opens up a new tab within Excel. It inserts that chart in. From there, I can go up, of course, with the data, you could go in and do some other formatting, make it 3D, change the headers, the information that's shown there, and get really creative there. But there is just so much that you can do that it's hard to illustrate without getting into with a more complex data set there. But again, as I said, if there's people that are at the 101 level with Power BI and creating these advanced visualizations, it's a great starter tool. And I expect to see more of this kind of capability across the Office suite of tools, not just PowerPoint and Excel. So great tool though. Number 13. Heard about this. If you've not yet played with this, PowerPoint, the presenter coach that's out there, has a couple very cool capabilities. One thing through the PowerPoint Online, you have the ability to go in there. There's like two primary capabilities. One, that you can actually go through and it'll review your content and give you suggestions. And then two, you can actually go through and present and walk through the slide, and it'll do a recording of that and actually report back about your speech patterns, about those fillers. Think of it as like this is like a Toastmaster's dream to, as you're actually presenting, practicing that to provide you AI-based feedback on how many ums or pregnant pauses or other verbal crutches. Like I say a lot. So anyway, it'll be able to point those things out, give you some tips on the slides where you performed the weakest. It's just a really cool tool if you're trying to improve your skills in presenting. And so there's a link there. Of course, you could go in there as you're building content using this example. And it'll actually make suggestions. And there you can see in the video, the animation of that's the ideas. So between the ideas, the real time as you're adding content in, it's providing feedback over your language. And you even have things like gender specific language and providing tips in real time as you're building content. And then once you've completed your slide deck, giving that presentation, giving you feedback on your presentation itself. It's a dream for people that need to constantly get feedback of how am I doing, how am I performing, what do you think about this? Then just hook in AI around that, or the rest of us that say, I don't care what other people think. Don't judge me. Then maybe the feature's not for you. All right, number 14. Here's one that is great to demo. And I actually did a demo when I shared this initially, but for time purposes, won't be able to go into that. What I suggest is open up the latest version of Word, click on Dictate, and let it try. This is an improved dictation capability in Word. It's also in Outlook and the mobile devices. It's scarily accurate. It's fantastic. 6 preview languages that are available. I don't know the time frame for expanding on that, but if you've not yet played with this, go play with it today. It's really cool. 15. Adding comments to non-Microsoft files in SharePoint Online and OneDrive. Now, we're all familiar with this. I'm going to kind of thumb through these tips. Thanks, Tom, for sharing this one. Within your SharePoint library or within OneNote, go up into the vertical ellipses, see the details around that content. We're all familiar with you collaborating around Office documents, Word docs, Excel, PowerPoints, those kinds of things. But you can also, anything that's stored within OneDrive and SharePoint Online, you can actually go in and add notes and track that over time to non-Microsoft documents. And this is one of those things where just most people aren't aware that you can do this. So it's really cool to do that. So as you go and click on the details there, you see that rolling activity there. So you can add notes to that, comment, mention other people. Some really cool stuff that is happening there. I'm not sure if I need to go test it out, whether the @mention, the notifications with To Do, if it goes all the way through. If it doesn't, it will soon, because that's one of the things. Anywhere you @mention somebody within the environment, especially with the online versions of Office and SharePoint and OneDrive, should create a notification within To Do, and then eventually, most likely also Planner. So that's kind of a future roadmap thing. 16. One that you're probably familiar with, but the channel cross-posting of Microsoft Teams. Some people still aren't aware of this thing, but when you go in and you're commenting within a channel conversation, most people aren't using this yet, but it's been rolled out. I believe it's been fully globally deployed. So if it's not yet in your tenant, talk to your admin. If you are the admin, it's not in your tenant, then it may not be rolled out yet. And so inquire of your Microsoft rep to see what's going on there. But it should be globally deployed. So this is something that I could go in and to say, hey, look, this is something that is relevant to this channel, but I want it to be, it's relevant for all the project managers across it. Let's say that you have a team that's set up for projects, and a channel is our individual projects, or in an operations team, a support organization, each channel is a ticket that's open. And maybe you have something that's relevant to multiple channels and want to be able to share that, so you can create the post once, and just like creating an email, as you select other channels, you add those in there, blast it out there, it adds it like an email, sends it out there with all of your formatting, and you see that distinctive link symbol to show that, hey, this is something that's shown up in multiple channels. As Tom was showing in his example here, that it shows up in multiple locations here. But you can also delete the message from a single channel, or as the creator of that, of all channels. So that is, you do have that capability to do that as well. All right, number 17. This is a very popular tip. Most people aren't aware of this. I saw a question in one of the earlier sessions where somebody was demonstrating whiteboarding. and asking when it's going to be more broadly available. But I absolutely love the Microsoft Whiteboard templates capability. So it's something that's the Whiteboard app that you can go and download. What's cool about this is that it has these, if you're not sure how to leverage Whiteboard, using these templates helps. Now, of course, to go and get started with the Whiteboard, you go and install that. It's a Windows 10 application. It's free to go and download and start leveraging. You'll go to the store, you'll download that. There it is. It's free. You get it and you install it. Once you're in there and open up the Whiteboard workspace, you'll see that template still in preview now. You see the template capability, and click on that and open that. What happens is you'll see a list of options that you'll be able to scroll down through and select each one of these. When you select one of the templates, it'll open. Of course, my build got messed up. Here, it'll open up in the window, and you just start using it. And so it's a great way for if you're in a planning session, a team offsite, and want to go and do a SWOT analysis, if you want to do kind of a Scrum type board and have that interactive on a screen, if you've got a touch screen, or if you have somebody that is operating this and adding notes from the physical whiteboard into this digital whiteboard that's being shared with people in other locations, some really cool uses for this. And it's leveraging the templates is a great way, again, just to see the art of possible. What else can I be using this for? You might get some great ideas in your planning activities for your organization. All right, 3 more tips here. 18. I'm a big fan of Yammer, have been, as I mentioned before it was acquired by Microsoft. It's cool to see a lot of the integrations. I really like, for example, the integrations with Outlook, being able to, and we're seeing the integrations with Teams and Outlook. And I don't believe that any one of these applications, Yammer, Teams, SharePoint, any of them are an email killer. I don't think any one of it might, for some organizations, the culture of the organization might be very social collaboration focused, and Yammer may be a primary tool. For others that are more project focused, maybe Teams is the right fit. Others are more process and kind of knowledge management focused, and SharePoint is the right primary front end for most of what they do, the intranet. Others are very email centric. And so even within an organization, you might have groups or individuals that are very centric to one of those solutions. And so you're starting to see a lot of crossover, a lot of integrations between those. So I can interact with and push information from one to the other. I really like the, it's not part of this tip specifically, but like the being able to go in there and pin like the Yammer app, as I have it pinned within my own Teams environment, to my left rail, because it's something I'm constantly moving over to these communities in Yammer that I'm a member of, that are out, like public communities as well as private communities and MVP communities and things like that. And so having that in my left rail within Teams, which is my primary workspace for most of what I do during the day, it's really Teams and OneNote are the 2 applications or workloads where I spend most of my time. But this is something that I really love when they announced this a few months ago. I think it was last year. So July last year. So it's the Q&A capability. So this is just a really important part of capturing knowledge. And there's still a huge differentiator between Yammer and Teams and SharePoint. And one of the stories I think that Yammer really shines at is this unstructured but knowledge factory. It's where we interact with things that aren't related to a specific project, to any one team, and so you can capture information. I always use the example of, I was working for a company, we just got acquired, and so we were doing an all hands meeting, and I went in and created an all hands meeting community within our Yammer environment. And as people were asking questions, and we had multiple locations that were doing a closed circuit but live meeting, multi-hours, with the executive team going through, the leadership team sharing information. And people were asking questions in person, and people in other locations, like, their voices weren't being heard. They were emailing questions that weren't being viewed by the leadership team. So I started capturing, and a couple other people jumped in Yammer. And this would have been a great capability to have, where people can ask questions and then multiple people can go in there and respond. What's powerful about this, and where Yammer really shines again, is that 6 to 9 months later, there was another acquisition. We had another all hands meeting, and a lot of the new people were asking the same questions that were asked 6 months earlier. And I went into that same community that we had created, and I saw that people were already in there adding updated responses. So they were using it as this knowledge share. And so this is just another great utility. So here I can ask that question. Here's a question I'd like to be answered. There's my great example here. Here's the answer. There's a better advanced answer. As the person who asked the question, I can mark the best answer and have that highlighted. Yet another answer there. And so people can go in there and see, okay, that's the best answer. But you still have that other dialogue. You have all of the other responses, other additional information that's captured. And what's beautiful about this is that all of this is then captured. It's all the content that is stored. It's all in the graph. All the answers there is that you have access to all of this rich information and all this knowledge. And I know I'm harping on about Yammer enough, but I still really believe in the tool. It's a great solution. All right, here's another engagement tool inside Teams, giving people praise in Teams. This is something that's fantastic. You have the ability to go in and you can, if you've got this capability that's turned on, you can select a badge. Again, you can control whether managers to do this, if peers can do this, but go in. It's just as simple as that. Select, if you're going to add the praise, select the badge, enter in the information, the guidance around that. It shows up within the conversation. But there's kind of a part two. This is a separate tip that I had shared, but I thought it was a great part two to this, is they can actually have the ability to go in and create unique digital badges. So if you have a specific program and want to make it unique to your organization, this is through this third-party vendor, Badger. But what's beautiful about this too is that you can actually create these that can be shared outside of Teams, like on their LinkedIn profile or elsewhere on their website. It's a portable solution as well, so that if you've got a learning, like a leadership development or a learning program, and want to develop something that's very specific, very unique to your methodology, you can go and build that, and you're right into Teams, and you can do that today. So this was something that was shared very recently out in tech community. So definitely go take a look at that. I'm a big fan of leaderboards. I've worked with sales organizations, operations organizations. I think having that kind of healthy competition and be aware of kind of what the standards are for the organization and performance standards, or just to be able to highlight people that are just really giving and sharing and kind of showcase their great work across the organization. I just think is a healthy cultural attribute, and more organizations need to be looking at leveraging these kinds of tools. All right, the last tip of the day here. I'm going to do a quick pitch for using Sway, but some people weren't aware of this, but you've got this content in Word. Of course, you can go in there and use the transform to web, and you can actually create these Sway documents. And similar to the ideas, you've got these templates, so you can transform boring text into usable ebooks or Sways that you can host within, within Stream, on SharePoint, on OneDrive, wherever you want to host those. But this is one of those things where a lot of what I advise my clients is content marketing strategy is that they're just not leveraging the content that they've already spent hours, days, weeks creating this core hero content, and then they're not properly leveraging that. They post it as a white paper and then they're done, or it's a blog post that's a feature article length that's 4,000 to 5,000 words long, and it's on their blog. They tweet about it once and they're done with it. Leverage that great content. Do other things with it. People, not everybody consumes content the same way. So using tools like this, you don't need to spend a lot of time. Use the out-of-the-box templates, some quick formatting, produce a PDF that's downloadable, or publish it as a sway out to your website. And I just, people need to leverage. This is the sway is that it's that stepbrother that we never speak about. So it's a tool as part of the Office suite that most people are not properly leveraging, but it's a great tool. Those are my 20 tips. I appreciate you sticking through that. I know that was a lot here. The slides will be out on SlideShare. You can follow me on Buckley Planet. Please reach out and connect with me via LinkedIn. You can check out my blog. If you want the history of the stuff that Tom and I do, at the top of buckleyplanet.com, you'll see the productivity tips. We have hundreds of tips that we've shared over the years that are all listed, all of the recordings. We have jump lists link lists that you can jump to the specific tip in the video, so you don't have to wade through an hour-long webinar recording to get to that tip. You can jump right to the one you need. We always share our slides. You can subscribe to this. We publish everything out on YouTube, or you can email me. And if you're interested, got a webinar, the next one that's happening in June. It's the June Jam that's happening on, I think, the 23rd of June, something like that. And with that, there's other slides. You've probably seen a bunch that are out there. Yeah, that's it. I know I'm at time here. I'm over time.